on it. As it says, no phone contact with the end user. We do not allow Delhi to contact our users at all. It's all back-end work. So the remote full-time, this is a service we actually also provide to other partners. So if anybody's interested, there's my contact information. This is basically a full-time body for your company working from our Delhi office, where, and that can be talked about offline sometime if you have any interest. Moving on. So how do we attain efficiency? How do we improve quality of our support and projects? How to make sure that the staff is completing tickets as fast as possible. If a staff has taken on a ticket and is working on it for 2 hours, if you get over 200 tickets a day, it's not always possible for you to manage and look at every ticket and see, should it have taken 2 hours? What's the incentive for the employee to move on? It's very difficult to say you should have handled 10 tickets in an hour. There's no such principle. One ticket could have taken an hour, really speaking. So it's very difficult unless you start putting some extra bodies on monitoring, and then that's a cost by itself too.
Right.
So it's a difficult proposition there. And from a staff's perspective who's on salary, he's doing a ticket. Okay, when he finishes, he's going to get another ticket. So once you've done that for a month or 2 months, you're like, okay, maybe I need to slow down a little bit. Maybe ultimately there is no incentive for me to finish this and move on, right? So that kind of a thing.
Right, and it's also, when you're in a managed services and you're including, maybe not on-site work, but you're also including remote work. The more time that your techs are spending on a ticket, that's more billable that you're losing based upon the monthly contract. And one thing that one of my partners does is she had mentioned that she gives her techs 2 hours to work on an issue. If you have 2 hours. If you don't have it either resolved or you have a specific steps to follow to resolve it, you push it to Zenith to work with. Mm-hmm. So do you have any principles like that, or any guidelines for your staff to since you're using a hybrid model, to move that over to Zenith rather than them spending their hourly or billable time?
What we do is we do 20 minutes on level 1. Mm-hmm. Level 1 is supposed to be open maximum possible to take client calls.
Right.
Obviously, we tell the clients to send emails, but clients call. Some send emails too, but so we all know that. But what happens here is level 1 gets 20 minutes to resolve a ticket, and if the level 1 sees that to be a longer ticket, it goes to level 2.
Right.
Level 2, we haven't come up with any such mechanism of offering it to Zenith yet. So we try and resolve it at our end.
Okay.
And if it gets to be longer hours, then we take it to the vendor. In many cases, it's Microsoft. To take it to the Microsoft and trying to get it figured out as to what's going on here.
Right.
So
I know one question that a lot of partners have is, how do you differentiate when in the sales process? Do you offer all-inclusive? Do you offer on-site? Like, how do you have that set up on the sales side?
Our contracts are all inclusive and unlimited on-site support.
Okay.
That's the only contract we sign. We do not offer billable on-site hours. The reason being is, if I was a client, how do I know you were supposed to be on-site or not?
Right.
So, it's kind of difficult to qualify for the client's perspective. So we, as anybody else, we've got burnt sometimes on-site hours and so on, but then you spread it across the clients and you say, okay, it's a typical way of insurance, right? So you deal with it, those few cases which are there.
Right. Now, do you certify network? I know that's something that a lot of partners will do before you bring them on to an all-inclusive package like you sell, is that you have to certify the network that they're using certain types of hardware or software that you're comfortable with before you actually go in and they sign the contract.
What we've started doing is we will go into the network and we'll see if there are multiple issues. If there are issues, we'll offer a consulting package before we'll take them on as a client.
Right.
And then also we will look at what are their applications which are included in our services. They might have Great Plains, or they might have another ERP system.
Right.
We require the client to have a support contract for it.
Okay.
So, I mean, my guys are not expert in Great Plains or, you know, any other ERP or
Right.
gold mine or, you know, and so on. So our expertise is Microsoft and Microsoft products, and
Right.
that's what we include in it.
Right.
Anything else, we will help in client interfacing with the vendor, but they need to have a support contract.
Right. And a lot of times, like the Great Plains or the ERP systems aren't typically just a pull out of the box, throw in the disk, and you install it. A lot of it's customized to the specifics of the end client. So, you know, it definitely makes sense to have either that support contract or have it somewhat outsourced to a.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times what happens is the client talks to the support person for the third party, but they talk different languages, and so we end up being the client inside IT department talking to the vendor, if you will, for the client. But, you know, if the client doesn't have that support contract, we've got burnt a few times where the clients expected us to resolve the issue. It's like,
Right.
no, this is not what we deal with.
Right.
So we have started putting those things in contract where we're saying, these are the things we support, and any other product which you have as a business software,
Right.
then you need to have a support contract on it.
Right. Yeah, I have some partners that whenever they sign the contract, ink the deal, what they'll do is they'll put together a nice binder. In this way, it's like almost like a flow chart or process flow.
Yeah.
And if it's, you know, in this area, you can send it to us, or, you know, some people will interact with the third-party vendor. But I think that's always an important piece as far as knowing your end client, knowing where to go. So this way it limits the frustration.
Absolutely, absolutely. Talking about motivation, so how to keep our guys, technical guys, motivated, how to keep the burning desire of increasing productivity, what's their incentive to do so? That's been a general question for us. So for many years we were doing once a year bonus to our employees. The bonus was delivered close to Christmas, but we always saw it failing to deliver what we were looking to deliver. Employees didn't have any way of controlling it. They didn't know how much bonus they were getting at any given point. How could they make changes to it? What would they need to do around the year to affect it? And once a year is kind of to just one time. The other 11 months,
Right.
it's out of mind. Nobody thinks about it.
Yeah, it's
So-
a long time to try to reflect
Yeah.
back and see who was supposed to get what they did good, what they did bad.
Exactly. It was easier when you were consulting and you had hours billable. You know, every staff had an X number of hours. They knew how much they would get paid for, and so on. They still could calculate. But in managed services, that went away.
Right.
And in this case, it became very difficult to give any excitement to the staff on what bonuses they're going to get. So there was no consequence of one employee and versus another. There's no way to track them, and
Sure.
so it became an issue for us. We've been looking for long and hard for how to do this, and we had many years of discussions internally and couldn't find anything what would make sense.